Om Shanti. So, welcome everyone. As always, every Monday we have a special guest speaker. So, we have Brother Errol from Connecticut. He has been practicing Raj Yoga meditation for over 45 years. Most of us haven't even born then. So, he has been practicing this for more than 4.5 decades, which makes him oh I got a chance to spend some couple of weeks with him, and I see him as a very stable yogi soul, and he's very composed, very peaceful. He works through his stage, and this is something that we always aspire for in this journey of spirituality. So we always want to learn how can we stay stable and stay connected for a long period of time. Like one of the things Baba says is constant over a long period of time, right? So I see Brother Errol as one of those brothers who always stays connected to Baba and to the family. He has so much love for the family, definitely. And by profession, he has taken multiple roles in the professional life. He has he worked on Amtrak in the legal department as a specialist, and he also worked in hospital in healthcare as in multiple roles, and he played a very significant role in the Yagya too. So currently he's serving in Connecticut along with Jay Shri Ben, and then I see him more international brother than just Connecticut. We always see him a brother from West Coast, from California, and also from Europe and everywhere rest of the world. So today he's going to share what is that perspective that helped him to go so stable over a long period of time. The power of perspective in this Brahmin journey. Without any further ado, I invite Brother Errol. Welcome, Brother.
Thank you, everyone. Om Shanti. Thank you, Harsha. Like Baba said in this morning's Murli, only the bag that contains the jaggery knows how sweet it is. I've been in this bag for a long time. Been in this bag going to be 57 years, and came into Gyan in my early teenage years. My mom brought me to Gyan, and at that time it was just me accompanying my mom. Like most of us who came in the early days, our parents brought us. But during the course of this evening, I will talk about my life being a Raj Yogi, practicing Raj Yoga for over a long period of time. But one of the reasons for this specific topic, which is perception, a couple of years ago, before the lockdown, I was in Peace Village, and Sister Wadi, Sister Gayatri, and Sister Manda were together. And Wadi Ben turned to me and says, Errol Bhai, you've been around for a long time. What has kept you in Gyan for so long without having any difficulties? And I said to Wadi Ben that I know my place. So when I said to Wadi Ben that I know my place, it's very demeaning when we say it, thinking of the way knowing your place has been used in the past. Women has been told to know their place. Minorities has been told to know their place. But then she paused for a few minutes, and then she says to me, what do you mean you know your place? I said, since coming into Gyan, my place has been always next to Baba and not next to any teacher or any student. Because when we look at each other and we look at this one word, perception, we understand it to be the ability to see, to hear, to become aware of something through my five senses. So every judgment, every contact I make with anyone, I can only understand them through my five senses. But that is without Gyan. So before we go through the process of understanding this concept of perception, while in Gyan and before Gyan, I'll ask brother just to put up one concept on the screen. It's a slide. When you look at this slide, for a few minutes, I want you to think of today or yesterday or a point in time when you were confronted with this situation. You've asked someone to do something, but they did not do what you asked or the way you asked it to be done. And then they proceed to explain to you the reasons why. So the first thing in perception, we'll have 2 minutes of a little bit of commentary. You don't have to go anywhere. You just have to sit and relax. And we'll talk about this in just 2 minutes. So sit back and relax. Today was Labor Day. So many individuals had no work today. While sitting, go back and remember this particular encounter. Whereby you had an argument because you perceive that the individual understood what you'd like or what you were saying. It could be a teacher in the center, or it could be a student with a teacher in the center. Okay, you can take the slide away. So I hope that all of you have had a chance to recollect one of these situations. For many of us, it's unresolved. And it's unresolved simply because of two words, right and wrong. Someone has to walk away from the conversation knowing that he's done the right thing. But since my early days in Gyan, I understood from Baba, it's not a matter of right or wrong. But if you have the chance to step around and look at the situation from the other person's side, if you're on the left, you're seeing 6, and if you're on the right, you're seeing 9. So movement has to happen. Movement in our consciousness. I can remember back in 1982, Didi came to Guyana, and Didi was in the morning class. And I was going to school at that time. I walked 3 miles every day to go to class. And sometimes it's dark because class starts early in the morning. And I get there and I always sit down behind a brother called Nandalal. I sit behind Nandalal because Nandalal will go to sleep. He will go all the way down while writing Murli, and he'd fall asleep, but he's still writing while sleeping. So for me, as a 13, 14-year-old, as a teenager at that time, I had a good laugh. And Didi was sitting in class, and she looked at me, and she also smiled. And then Didi says to me, "Don't let anyone take away your happiness." Perception. She could have said to me, "What you're doing is not right." But what she saw was someone expressing a sense of happiness. So many times we look for the weakness that we see instead of looking at the beauty. And I think that's one of the reasons why I stayed in Raj Yoga, because no matter who the teacher is, no matter what someone says to me, I try my best to always see the beauty in the person. because the negative behavior is short lived once I do not give it life. The moment I give anyone negativity life, it will begin to live inside me. It's like Santa Claus. If others' gifts of negativity begin to live inside you, you begin to carry it around. And you'll pick up these negative gifts from everyone you meet. Because one person impacted your life negatively, you become the storyteller in your own mind of that negative experience. And because of that, it becomes extremely heavy to carry. Perception as a brother who is single and who've been around many brothers who has families also, one of the questions I'm asked is that, and this is many times from students, those who are taking the class, and many Brahmins who's been in Gyan for a while, but still both Kumars, Kumaris, and those who are married will ask the question, is your life lonely? And I always say to them that loneliness has nothing to do with you being alone. Because you can be married, have a family, but you're completely alone. You don't share the same things. You may be married and together for 20, 30 years, had kids, watched them go off to college. And all you wanted to do is to have a day where you can sit down with your partner and have a wonderful discussion on anything. But for many years, that hasn't happened. So even in marriage, many times there's the feeling of being alone. But those from the outside, seeing the couple together, will say, what a wonderful couple. What a happy couple. But like Baba says this morning, only the bag that contains the jaggery knows how sweet it is. Baba has taught us, and what I've taken from Baba over these years, is in anything that you do, try to put Baba in the middle. And I never understood why he wants to be in the middle of everything. Why does Baba ask to be involved? I remember I was in college at that time, and I wanted to go outside. I want to have my girlfriend. I want to hang out with friends. I want to go to a party because I'm working every day and I'm going to school. I work 65 hours a week sometimes, and I'm doing 18 credits a semester. So I wanted the old man to leave me alone for a while so I can have some fun. So I packed up my meditation room, packed up all the pictures, my book, dishes, and I lock it up in the closet. Perception is that, well, he's out of the way. I can go and party. So I went out with my college friends and I came back home alone. I opened the door, and the first thing that comes out of my mouth is Om Shanti. Because that has been a habit. Next morning, I got up. I'm making my lunch to take to work. But I have to offer because that's how I live my life. So I say, you know what? I'm not going to offer. I'm just going to pack my lunch and head off to work. So I pack my lunch and I head out. Now comes times to eating. I couldn't eat without remembering Baba. So the old man has always been in the middle. And with him being in the middle, he's allowed me to look at myself, look at the world that I'm in, and look towards a future in which my life is different. So we're going to look at this same picture again with Baba in the middle. And you're going to go back to that same situation that's unresolved, that little conflict you've had with someone. And you're going to look at the situation you're going to think about it. And this time, think about it with God in the middle. And while you're doing that, will be the second understanding of perception. Because perception at this moment is a state of being, a process of becoming aware of something that has happened that influence your senses. It influences senses to such an extent that it made you angry, it made you cry, it made you feel less than you are. For some, it made them feel powerful. For some, it makes them feel in control. For some, it makes them feel better than the other person. But if we put God in between that, we begin to understand that I'm no better than the other person. All I have to do is to find a way to step aside and give this situation and circumstance a minute to breathe. So breathe. And then step aside. Now we'll continue. We'll remove the photograph, the slide. You can remove the slide. We'll do the third slide after. So Om Shanti, does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask before we continue? Anyone has raised their hand or have any questions? Does anyone want to share the situation that was in front of them?
Om Shanti, brother.
Om Shanti. What's your name, sister?
Joanne in Vancouver, Canada. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Joanne. Then yes.
So what I'm hearing you say is, by me doing a stop and bringing Baba in, then, because Baba understands both sides, so he's asking me to stop and then perceive the other side, possibly the other side, which will take me back from feeling I'm right. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because what has happened when you stop, you're not letting your senses be in control of the situation, but you are beginning to take control of your senses. Because due to the sensory perceptions, I want to defend myself. But when you step away, you're asking the senses to start cooling down. Because it's the sensation that we felt caused me to react. So if I can reduce the amount of negative sensations from the experience by stopping and breathing, I'm taking control, not just of my senses, but I'm taking control of my past sanskars. Because what is happening, I am reacting based on a latent injury inside my sanskars. So my senses now tap into that, and now I have to react. So when you pause, you're preventing this incident from becoming a sanskar. Because if you proceed with the way you feel, then that impression will become a sanskar. And we don't want to perform the same set of actions 5,000 years from now. So stopping and breathing helps you to ask yourself the question, do I want to repeat this identical action 5,000 years from now? Whether it's anger, whether it's my ego, because whatever we do now repeats. So stopping and breathing is helping me to stop the behavior. And it takes practice over a long period of time. But we have to start somewhere. You understand?
Yes, I think I do. So the feelings, which are is the feelings, the feelings which are connected to the thought, which is often ego based, but it's an old behavior, maybe trauma, but something that I've hung on to. And so by stopping and taking a breath, why is that not enough? Because now you're bringing in Baba. So why would not taking a breath, that too would stop things for a moment, correct? Om Shanti.
Yeah, Om Shanti, we get a chance to stop it. And the reason why you bring in Baba in now is because you want a person who is forever neutral. And that's God. Baba doesn't take any sides. He's forever neutral. So you want that neutral power to neutralize my consciousness of the other person. Because you cannot do it alone.
What's happening to the other person when you're doing this?
Because when you now turned around to face the other person, you have Baba in your eyes, in your feelings, in your awareness. So it's no longer what the person's reaction is going to be. It's only what my reaction is. Because I no longer concern myself whether the person is negative or positive. All I'm concerned with at this particular moment is that I had a chance to breathe, sit with Baba, turn around and see the soul across from me as my equal. I'm no longer judging the person. My perception of what has happened has changed because my consciousness have changed. My awareness have changed. My power has changed. Because now my power can influence the atmosphere itself in a positive way. We're not thinking about instantaneous, these things will happen, but we have to start somewhere.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So anyone else would like to share before we continue?
Isn't this the SOS in the foundation course? You stop, observe, and then steer. This is what you're referring to.
Yes, when we go through the foundation course, we don't have Murli. And in the foundation course, you can stop, but you don't know where to go. You can stop, but you have no knowledge to hold on to. You can stop, but you have no experience. But when you begin to listen to Murli, and you're beginning to make a connection between Murli, myself, and God, now you have 3 steps. Before you are just at 1 step, which is the foundation course.
I see.
But when you have 3 steps to go, it's much better than just having one person, one idea, one feeling in your corner, because you're still trapped with the senses.
It's much
Meditation,
much more experiential.
yes. Because one of the things, Baba asks us to become soul conscious. But we cannot stop being body conscious. So what is it that we have to do to become soul conscious? We have to increase the power and practice of soul consciousness. Because the reason why we're body conscious, because we are in bodies. We cannot deny the big elephant. But when we practice soul consciousness over a long period of time, we increase the power of soul consciousness and it reduces the level of body consciousness. So we cannot become soul conscious just like that because we're in bodies. It's a practice increasing because for 2,500 years, we just consider ourselves to be bodies. But what makes the practice of soul conscious easy is because we have God and we have knowledge. So we can practice it as moment by moment, just to increase soul consciousness, and then it reduces body consciousness. Okay, anyone else before we continue?
So we want to make this a habit.
Exactly. Because what happens, the word habit, Habbit, if you remove the first letter in the word habit, you still will have a bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
You remove the A, you will still have a bit of the habit. You remove the other B, you will still have a bit of it. You remove the other B, you still have it. You remove the I, you still have time. So one habit over another habit takes time.
So do you want to remove your attention from all of that? That's the T at the end of habit.
The T is time. It means it takes time. Nothing happens in a flash. We have to be able to put in the time and the work, just like college, university, or high school, or kindergarten. We put in the work. And when we put in the work, we have the results. But we always have to remember that the cycle repeats itself identically. So if you choose to start the work today, you will start the work at the same time every single cycle. So the power to begin drives my future for eternity, not just once. I'll start off this last session with a little story. I arrived in Madhuban for the first time. And at that time, we used to meet Baba directly. And I was so excited to be in Madhuban. I met this brother from Germany. His name was Pascal. We shared the same room. And I didn't know that Pascal was already a journalist when he came to Madhuban. I realized that later. I will get up normally at 2:30 in the morning, get my shower because there's so many of us in one room. So I'll get my shower early, get dressed, and I'll head over to History Hall. After morning class, you go through a little corridor. There's Ishu Daddy's office. And on the left-hand side is where Daddy Prakash Mani meets and the little dining area. And as you walk past that little corridor, you reach Atam Prakash Bhai, who's making toli. And then a little walk, another door there next to Atam Prakash Bhai is a brother sitting on a gadi, and there's this huge pot of milk in front of him. And beyond that room, I'm walking past the next room, which is the third room. And I looked into the room, and Boli Daddy put her hands up and she calls me into the room. We've never met. We did meet 5,000 years before, but in this instance, I couldn't remember our meeting. So I walked into the room and she told me, Baika, she told me to sit down on the stool. Daddy was in front of a little fire and she had some rolled up dough. She was making chapati. She made me 2 chapatis. She put it in a piece of newspaper. She rubbed my face and she says, Shanti, now you can go. To me, that is when I fell in love with Baba and the Yagya. Not because of Gyan, not because of Baba, not because of any of the other daddies, but I fell in love with the Yagya because here is someone who saw me at a glance, invite me, to her table. Look at me with love, as someone she's been waiting for her long life. And she finally got a chance to meet me. She rubbed my face. She made me something to eat. She made me feel loved. I went up to the dining room, and Pascal was sitting at the table waiting for me. And I said to him, guess who just give me all their love? I said, who? I said, Boli Daddy. He says, where is she? I said, she's right downstairs. So he left and he went down. He came up back and he says, he didn't get any chapati. So I gave him one and I had one. Perception. Before Daddy give me 2 chapatis, it's as though she knew one is for him. It's as though she knew through the clarity of her own intellect and her connection to souls and connection to feelings and awareness, not sensory connections, but a connection that's deeper than through the senses. She could have just given me one, but she gave me 2. So this is what happens when things is done in the consciousness and the awareness of God, in Baba's consciousness. Now we look at the last slide and see if you can think, going through a little bit of meditation with a little bit of commentary. And I would like you to sit with God. I would like you to sit with him. Not to have any thoughts, but we're going to put up this 3rd slide and then we'll have a little commentary. As I sit, with Baba, I realize that I have to have mercy for myself. I have to love myself. Every situation brings me a gift. No matter how negative or positive the situation might be, I don't want to leave it without taking the gift of the lesson the situation has brought me. By remembering Baba, through my interactions with others, my perception is not driven by my senses. Because my senses has been driven by my sanskars that accumulated over a long period of time. But I can change that. I can change it by not seeing the negativity of my senses. But begin to see the gift of change that God has given me. I don't have to change all at once. I just have to be constant and consistent with my efforts. The sweetness of God I can feel it in my entire being. The beauty of the person next to me. I can see the beauty of the world. I must continue to look at its beauty. This body that nature has given me is the reason why I can meet Baba. I can meet the family. Without this body, I know no one. I see no one. I feel no one. So be thankful for the body you have. And be thankful for those in your contact. Perception is also a way of regarding, understanding, and interpreting impressions. To look at the world and see its beauty. Look at yourself and see what an amazing person you are. Because out of billions, God has chosen you. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
It's a beautiful session that you have shared about the perception. So, like you are sharing, as we go through the journey, all our experiences of the life, which are through the body, through our senses, through our bodily relations, that color our perception of meeting the real person behind that consciousness. And definitely when we bring Baba into picture, connecting to Baba takes off that fog before our eyes, and we can see things as it is. So if I consciously don't do anything about connecting to Baba, the past will drive my present. I'll behave the same way as I was behaving earlier, and taking us forward. So my question around that is, so we know when we experience, but we experience a lot through bodies and limited self. So most of the time our sense of judgment is based on what our experiences tell about. Knowledge is always there, but experiences have stronger force on our sense of judgment and how we act now. Could you share some of your experiences that really uplifted or removed the fog of all of our past experiences? That may include traumas, that may include deep hurt, that may include deep wounds, that made us sensitive, that made us bias our judgment or cloak our judgment of seeing things as it is because of the pain, because of fear of repeating the same pain, because we see the similar signs that happen in the past, right? A deeper experience can take us beyond another trauma. So could you share some of the experiences that you had that helped, deeper spiritual experience that you had with Baba, either in Madhuban, either definitely you shared one with Boli Dadi, that unconditional love, that selfless love pulled you into that space beyond physical and felt that spiritual love. Could you share some of those experiences of soul consciousness?
When I was working as a nurse, I was new to the med surgical department. And one brother, Prasad, who now runs the Ocala Center, we used to go to center together. So at the time, we were working in the same hospital, and he was my in charge. So I had just come out from surgery and met him on the ward. And he says to me, "Errol, come, let me show you something." So we got down, and there was this man under a blanket in the bed. What I'm going to share to you will be gross. It's be very gross. So he lifted up the blanket, and the man's leg was being eaten away by maggots. The man couldn't feel any of it. Prasad took a forceps and removed the lower part of his leg. The man didn't even know that we removed it. From that time, I really realized that I am completely different from these 5 elements I occupy. The elements can fall apart, but I'm still inside it. I think at that moment is when I realized how much soul is different from body. On the spiritual aspect, in regarding to dealing with senses and sensations, Daddy Chandramani was giving a class in Om Shanti Bhavan. The class was held in Panda Bhavan, but Om Shanti Bhavan was right across. There was no Shanti Van or anything like that back then. And there was this brother from Punjab, Daddy Chandramani. She was known as the Lioness of Punjab. And the Punjabi brother walked up towards the stage and confronts Daddy Chandramani. And we as double foreigners are sitting in the back, a few chairs down, and we're looking at this interaction. You know, the brother is waving his finger at her, and he's talking very loud. And Daddy Chandramani is smiling while he's talking. And then her face changed. And then she said to the brother, now comes real power. And we look up. She didn't turn around to look or nothing. Daddy Prakashmani was coming from behind the stage. Even though she was engaged with someone that was being rude and belligerent in front of her, she never lost her connection with Baba. And the reason why you know this is because when she finally spoke, she spoke of Daddy Prakashmani coming on stage. You couldn't see Daddy Prakashmani. No one of us saw her. She just walked out from behind the stage. That connection brought the place in complete silence. The brother went back to his seat and sit down. And then Daddy came and took her seat and she sat down. Daddy Chandramani could have been overcome by ego or some other sensory perception and reacted to the brother or want to answer him. But she was totally at ease and at comfort with just sitting with Baba. Because to be engaged with someone who have the lack of respect at that time is to engage with your own negative sanskars of the past. And Daddy didn't want to do that. Moini Ben shared a story with us once, and she shared it on a Vakti Parivar a couple of times. Daddy Prakashmani was standing with some teachers around, and one teacher was very, very rude to Daddy. And then when the person left, they asked Daddy, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you react? And Daddy says, at the time, I was just checking on my powers. So those situations taught me you don't have to be driven by your senses or your past sanskars with any situation. Because to be driven by your past sanskars in a negative way will just make that sanskars even stronger. To weaken it is not to use it. Just like getting rid of body consciousness is to use more soul consciousness in your dealings with yourself and with others. Because the more we deal and we sit and we use soul consciousness, the more it becomes the consciousness of our being. The more we'll be in that stew of being soul conscious. And like I said earlier, everything takes practice. We have to start sometime. Because you don't want to repeat the same thing 5,000 years from now. That scares the hell out of me. To know that my actions, if I continue to perform them, I'll be doing the exact same thing later on. Because of that, I like working on putting full stops. It's a constant work in progress. But there is progress. But you cannot give up on yourself. And you cannot give up on anyone else.
I have a question.
Go ahead, brother. What's your name?
Roberly, you're going to be visiting me in a month here in Oregon.
Oh, I Roberly. I'm Shanti, buddy.
Oh, Shanti. Yeah. I look forward to meeting you. I wanted to ask how you might use power of surrender in being soul conscious as you come into situations and like your sanskars are causing you problems.
The word surrender is a very big word. One of the things that I've learned in the years is that never give advice, because the word advice denotes that I am going to add my vice to what I'm going to tell you to do, because I'm not pure. So advice means I add my vice to what I'm telling you. But if you want me to share, then I will share. But advice, I wouldn't be able to, because I'll be adding my own vice to what I'm telling you, because I'm not free of vice. So the word advice already tells me I'm adding vice. But what I'm going to share with you is that always remember three things. The first one is that everyone in Baba's home was put there by Baba. I know it's hard sometimes to think that God has put this soul here. But who am I to judge what God has done? God has put that soul here. Whether the soul does nothing or whether the soul sweeps the floor and do all the work. Both of them was put there by Baba. And if I allow my own negative consciousness to see them at any time in a negative light, that means I have to do work on me. I don't have to do work on them. I have to surrender my thinking of who I think they are, my perception. Because God has put them there, God has also put me here. But because God put me here, I have to surrender my arrogance. Whether the person surrenders theirs or not has nothing to do with me. But I must surrender my arrogance, because when I do that, no person, place, or thing can hold me hostage. If I do not surrender, I'm hostage to my old thinking. So I'll always be fighting with someone. I'll always be angry. I'll always be negative because I am hostage to my past. I haven't surrendered anything. But if I can give up gradually the ego of my own thinking, the ego of my own being, surrender comes easy and naturally. But I have to give up what I hold dear. Because I'm not giving it up. I'm getting something even more powerful, something even better. So surrender, like I said, it's very big. And I have to understand that I'm the one who has to give up or let go, not give up, but let go of my crutches of the past. Because all my five senses and all my five vices, they were just crutches. They get me through life, they get me through birth after birth. But they weren't really mine to own. That's why they're crutches. Baba comes and heal you. You just have to let go of the crutches and walk. But many times we find we need to pick up some of the crutches and put it back under our arm, and we begin to limp around because someone has said something to me. So I pick up one of the crutches and I begin to limp around, and they would not listen to what I'm saying. They think that they're always right, but that's my thinking. So my thinking now permeates the atmosphere. So what is it that I'm going to get from the atmosphere? What I'm thinking. Nothing has a chance to get through because my thinking has filled the atmosphere around me with probably negativity. So I need to change the atmosphere that I live in. And I need to make that atmosphere clean so others can get through. And I can get through to others. This makes sense, brother?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was muted. Yes, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah, because advice comes with vice. No one can give you advice without vice, because I will be speaking from my past experiences, and my past is full of vice. So advice means to give me some vice while you're telling me what to do, you know? So I try to stay with my advice, but I'll tell you my own experience.
Well, I think the surrender has to be supported with love for Baba. This has to be absolute in all conditions.
Yeah, yeah. And that love grows, you know? The love grows, you know? Be happy to tell God the way you feel sometimes, where you're not happy with him or any situation. Take a walk and talk to him. Because at that point in time, you're talking to yourself, and Baba is listening. And it's nice to do that.
Hmm.
I think that's the reason why Brahma Baba used to take such long walks. It gave him a chance to talk to himself, talk to God. But at the same time, he's listening to himself. So, yeah. Someone has a question?
Question, Errol, by with the same concept of surrender, we have a lot of homeless people where I live, and every time
Where are you, sister?
in San Diego, downtown San Diego,
Okay. Yeah.
and because of the weather or whatever, there are a lot of homeless people, and every time I see them, there's a lot of sense of pity, and my heart breaks seeing what I do. But how do I change that? That they are souls too and are playing their part. And what can I permeate the atmosphere with to help send them good wishes? Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Well, first you have to fix yourself, because if you're beginning to feel pity and sorrowful for the conditions that they're in, then there is something that you need to take care of inside of yourself. Because what did we learn from Baba? We learned three basic lessons. One, we're a soul. Everyone is a soul. Everyone is a child of God. Whether he's begging in the streets or living in a palace, he's still a child of God. And three, we've learned that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The philosophy of karma. Always remember, you have done nothing to put that soul in the situation that he or she finds himself. I have to give that soul the power of my pure feelings and my good wishes every single day I see that soul. When I pass by, the wind that goes by and touch that soul should be of my pure feelings. Because that's the only thing that can help that soul. Money cannot help. Putting the soul in an institution, help with the mental health, may not help. But we know one thing that will help the soul to find his way on his own and with the help of others is my good wishes and pure feelings. It's opened up a pathway for the soul to find himself and seek help from others. You have to give the soul power so that the soul itself finds the help it needs or has the power to bring the help closer to him. And you're Baba's child, you're God's child. You're a deity soul. You have the power to give the soul pure wishes and good feelings. and natural love. Because after all, he's a child of God. He's Baba's child.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Om
Yeah.
Shanti.
Thank you. Om Shanti.